Thanks for joining us today. There will be opportunity to ask questions after the presentation today, and I will go ahead and hand it over to the team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Rodriguez. I will start the presentation today. As part of our team, it's me, Hector Rodriguez. We also will have helping during the presentation my coworker, Bill Cunningham. He's one of the senior planners. And Rachel Hoy, who is the supervising manager of the district liaison team. If we can start with the presentation, Bill.
Sure. I will turn it on to full screen mode. All right, do we have the slides visible?
I think we do.
Yeah, it looks good.
Good. All right, Hector, just say when to move on and I will do that.
That sounds good. Well, once again, thank you for making time for joining us and going over the project. This is the Affordable Housing Opportunity Project. And once again, part of the team is Bill Cunningham, Rachel Hoy, and myself, Hector. Bill, can we go to the next one? For the agenda for today, we want to make sure that we do an overview of the project, what are the goals of the projects, and we're also gonna discuss the scope and goals of how the project was developed, how sites were selected, and some of the samples of the sites that were selected, and how to provide comments for the next phase that will be a proposal draft. We also will have time to answer questions as they come at the end of the presentation. Next, Bill. So let's start with what is AHOP. AHOP is short for Affordable Housing Opportunity Project. This initiative is one of the strategies that came out from the housing production strategy. And it's also built on previous effort from the city. The previous efforts were called Expanding Opportunities for Affordable Housing. Also, you can find them online by EOAH. It's a little long there, but they have two phases, and they were more focused on what it is like a faith-based institution in the past. With AHOP, we're switching that focus to be more into what is going to be nonprofit and public agency-owned properties. We want to make sure that with this project, we are providing new opportunities for new options of affordable housing and also preserving existing affordable housing, addressing non-conforming situations. Next, Bill. So we AHOP, we want to support affordable housing development opportunities by taking away some of the barriers that zoning might present in the current sites. And we also want to make sure that the zoning and the proposed changes on the sites align with the city goals. That being said, for example, being aligned with access to transit, services, and community infrastructure. To prefer the system affordable housing, we have an approach to make sure that the sites, the zoning for these sites are the more appropriate to the services that these providers are providing, or continue with the affordable housing. Next, Bill. So for the scoping on the project step, we started this project about like in spring to 2024. And we did a citywide call for housing providers, specifically for nonprofit developers and public agencies who own properties to contact us. So once we created this group, we started talking about what are their needs, the zoning needs for these sites to make a project feasible. And we created what is the scope of the project and what it will be the site selection. So for the site selection, we came out with a criteria, which I will go over. And we wanted to make sure that this change in zoning provide feasibility for near or short-term development goals. From that, we came out with 17 proposed sites. The next one. Part of this criteria, we wanted to make sure that this organization have the proper ownership of the sites. We also wanted to make sure that the location were like near corridor or neighborhood centers where it's accessible for public transit and other services. We also evaluated the zoning of the adjacent area to make sure that the zoning we were proposing co-align with these orders. The plan alignment, we want to make sure that what we are proposing is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And by readiness, we wanted to make sure that it's going to be a near or midterm development potential or preservation of the affordable housing. So the 17 properties are spread citywide. This is a map of how you can locate them. If you want to see this map more in detail, I encourage you to go to the discussion draft where you can find it like more accessible. But this is color coordinated. You can see like the light blue is for properties that are nonprofit owned. The one in little orange is a public agency, and the one in purple is for non-conforming situations. So each district have a number of different situations, and each side have different characteristics that we went over, and Bill will explain them too. So where we are right now and what are we doing this informational session is because we are in the discussion draft phase, which include the public engagement. For this, we created a website for the site where you can find new updates. You can have access to the discussion draft on PDF format. You also will have access to the map app, which is an interactive tool where you can see which property will be near you or the address that you are concerned about and leave a direct comment to it. We also send out a courtesy mailing to the neighbors in the area. We cover 400 feet around each side to include make sure that the neighbors adjacent to the sites are aware of the proposed zoning change. Additional to this info session, we will have another one next week in the evening. And we have been presenting to neighborhood and the coalition group as they are requested. Here, I wanted to show a little table that you can also find in the discussion draft. I will not go in detail because you can see it's very heavy to explain. But here you can find the number ID, and this you can match it with in the discussion draft with the maps. You also have a little note of what was the rationale for the zoning and the decision that was made, and the ownership of each property. You also can find the current zone and the proposed zone for each property. And they are divided by nonprofit ownership. Next one, Bill. Public agency owned, and for those that are non-conforming situationships. Next. So that's an overview of the project, what the introduction of the project is. Now my co-worker here, Bill Cunningham, will explain a little more about the zoning and the site overview. And we also will kind of provide some of the samples of these sites.
Great, thanks, Hector. And I did want to highlight that what I'll be sharing in the next several slides are just examples of the zone changes. But I do believe there'll be time, if there are other properties you had questions about, to go and address those after we move into the questions and answer part of our day. Just a very brief overview of the kinds of zones that the draft zone changes are considering. And just to orient you to the way these zones are labeled. Our multi-dwelling zones, also known as multifamily zones, always have an RM. RM1, RM2, RM3, RM4. And basically, the smaller numbers are smaller scale. Probably the most common sort of zone change that's being proposed is going from the RM1, this 2 to 3 story scale, to a RM2, 3 to 4 story scale. And these are usually in locations along or near corridors or around our neighborhood centers. And the basic reason for going from the smallest scale to the medium scale is to expand possibilities for including more homes on properties that are already owned by nonprofit agencies. And RM3, RM4, that's our larger scale multi-dwelling zone. This is actually just, these zones are only being applied to sites that already have large-scale existing affordable housing. And it's really to provide zoning that matches what's already there. The CM zones are our commercial mixed-use zones, and the zone changes include both CM2 and CM3. And one of the advantages of the CM zones for some of the affordable housing projects is that not only do they allow residential, but they allow things like ground floor community services or commercial services. And it can often be a positive for those residents to have some services that they can access as well as neighbors. So that's a very brief overview of the types of zones. I'm going to launch now into some of those examples of the zone changes, starting out with examples of properties are owned by nonprofit housing providers, where the goal is to allow for additional affordable housing on those sites. The first example is what we're calling the Prescott property. It's in District 2 on Northeast Prescott. The property is owned by Habitat for Humanity. It's very close to the Cully Neighborhood Center and nearly across the street from Scott Elementary School. And what Habitat would like to do on this property are ownership townhomes. And to do that with the current R7 zone would require basically a planned development procedure that would be pretty costly. And shifting to RM1 zoning, which is a small scale zone that's intended to be compatible with single dwelling areas, would facilitate that ownership housing that Habitat would like to do. And it's the site's adjacent to properties that are already zoned RM1 along Prescott. And this is definitely in alignment with our policy goals for locating housing, including affordable housing, close to services. Another example is DeMar Downs, and this is in East Portland in District 1. It's on 148th, just south of Division Street, which is a designated civic corridor, one of our important corridors, both for transportation and for growth. This property is about just over an acre and a half. It's right next to a Fred Meyer and adjacent to newly acquired parkland. So pretty amenity rich and very close to the Division FX line. And this is one level affordable housing that's been around for about 50 years or so. And the zone change would allow future possibilities for additional affordable housing on that site. And again, would be in alignment with focusing housing close to our corridors and close to services. Another example, and this is Camellia Court on North Lombard, which is in District 2, a fairly small site, 0.29 acres. It's along a corridor, which has a mix of zones that all allow up to about 4 stories. Right now, it has RM2 zoning, a multi-dwelling zone, and Home Forward would like zoning that could better accommodate the provision of community services on that site. So the proposal is to go from RM2 zone to CM2 zone, a similar scale in both those zones. The difference again being CM2 allows flexibility for providing services. And much of that corridor already has CM2 zoning. So it'd be in alignment with what's there and for our policies for focusing housing on these corridors and close to services. Another example, the Canton Grill site on 82nd over near Division is in District 1, but it's right on the boundary of District 3 as well. And Upon owns this property, and they have been doing a lot of community visioning about its future. As I mentioned, it's right at a hub location, right near the intersection where PCC Southeast is. And the visioning that's come out has really looked at the aspiration is to provide upper level affordable housing units, and then at ground level, including things like small commercial spaces, community spaces, and having some of the ground area become courtyard space. And basically the proposal is to go from CM2 zoning, which maxes out at 4 stories, to CM3 zoning to provide a little more flexibility on height to allow for all those ground floor elements and courtyards, etc. And this is along 82nd, which has a comprehensive plan designation of mixed use civic corridor that has the CM3 zone as one of its implementing zones. So it's in alignment with those kinds of policies. Along with the zone change to CM3 would become the design overlay. Portland has policies that call for having design standards or review be attached to our higher density zones or bigger scale zones to better manage the design of those developments. So again, CM2 to CM3, flexibility and scale. Couple examples I wanted to share of the public agency property examples, and I'll launch right into it. There are actually a couple TriMet-owned sites on Southeast 17th, and the one I'm showing here is at the intersection of 17th and Holgate. And just to note, this is in District 3. The property is a little bit over ½ acre. It's immediately adjacent to a Max Orange Line station. And the proposal is to shift from EG1, and that's an employment light industrial zone that currently prohibits housing, to CM2. And that's a commercial mixed use zone, similar scale to EG1, but it would now allow housing. And it aligns with TriMet's interest in opening up some of their properties to affordable housing development. The CM2 zone would also provide the advantage versus a purely residential zone of allowing ground floor services, which could be a good relationship to the adjacent light rail, and across the street we have the TriMet bus garage. But I just want to highlight with this, the whole goal of this project is not a broad sweeping set of zone changes. It's really targeted, as Hector was saying, focused on what are properties that are already controlled by affordable housing providers or public agencies, where we could adjust the zoning to really better meet our pretty critical need for affordable housing. A lot of the research the city's been doing has been identifying the fact that we're just not nearly close to being able to meet all the need that's out there for lower income affordability housing. The other public agency property, and this one's owned by the city of Portland, and it's the former Sears Armory site, where there's a current Safe Rest Village on Multnomah Boulevard. This is in District 4. It's very close to the Multnomah Village Neighborhood Center. It is also within walking distance of a Safeway at Multnomah and Barber. And the reason for this zone change is not anything near term. It's basically to allow at some point in the future for the site to transition to long-term affordable housing. As I mentioned before, EG, which is it's an employment light industrial zone, prohibits a residential. Changing the zoning to CM2 would then allow for future affordable housing, as well as, because it's a commercial mixed use zone, you could also provide services that could both benefit residents and potentially neighbors. And it does align with focusing our housing and services around neighborhood centers and corridors. I do want to emphasize for this one that there are no plans for redevelopment of this property. It is a Safe Rest Village, and we don't have any plans to change that situation, but changing the zoning to CM now opens up the future opportunity for affordable housing at some point in the future. I should also mention that changing the zoning from EG2 to CM2 would also make it less complex in terms of a regulatory perspective, and continuing the Safe Rest Village, as currently the EG2 zone has shelters as a conditional use that has a review process that could range from 2 to 4 months. And CM2 has allowances that allow shelters, including outdoor shelters, to happen in a more of a by right arrangement. Some of the examples of non-conforming situations, I have a couple of slides I'd like to share. One is Holgate House, which is along Cesar Chavez Boulevard at Holgate. It's in District 4, although it is in Southeast, it's immediately bordering District 3. It's a slightly over 1 acre site owned by Home Forward. There's existing housing there. a 5-story, I think 1970s affordable housing building. And that 5-story building is not going anywhere. But the current zoning on that property is intended for 3 to 4-story buildings. And so the 5-story building is non-conforming with what's there, which it makes it hard to do improvements such as small additions to it because they're already beyond what the current zoning allows. So the proposal is to shift from that 3 to 4-story zone, the RM2 zone, to the RM3 zone, which better accommodates a 5-story building. Along with that would come the design overlay zone, which always goes along with those larger scale zones. And it does go along with our policies for housing close to transit and commercial services. This is just north, by the way, of a Trader Joe's grocery store. And a final example before we shift into other topics is the shrunk Riverview Tower in St. John's. This is another Home Forward property. It's in District 2 in North Portland in the St. John's Town Center. It's 0.69 acres. It's an existing 11-story building, another building that's not going anywhere. But the current zoning is RM2, more of that 3 to 4-story scale. And RM4 more closely matches that existing 11-story building scale, which would support its long-term continuation and better facilitate upgrades to that property. So no development or accommodation of redevelopment really is the intent in these non-conforming properties. That's really providing zoning that better matches what's there to facilitate the continuation of that existing affordable housing. I want to highlight one thing in that we definitely want to hear your comments with the discussion draft that's out. Encourage you to take a look at the map app, which shows all the properties where zone changes are being considered. And Victor, or it'd be great if you could copy the map app web address into the chat so it's easier for people to connect to it. And I should mention too that the map app is the way nowadays that once this becomes an actual formal proposal that people would provide testimony later on to Planning Commission and City Council. We're not yet at that Planning Commission or City Council stage. This is early discussion that we have now, but we want to encourage people to get comfortable using the map app. Just an example, just zooming into one of those Brooklyn TriMet sites, you can enter your address in the upper left of the map app and it'll zoom into where your property is and you'll be able to see what's there. Or you could just visually look at the map and select sites. And once you find a site that you're curious about, just click that site. It'll take you, zoom you into that particular property. And in the right column, there's information about what's proposed. Here, for example, it's showing that the existing base zone is general employment and the proposed base zone is commercial mixed use 2, that CM2 zone. And clicking the links that you have that for the existing base zone and the proposed base zone will get you to a little description of what the zone is. So you'll be able to see what the current zoning is and what's proposed, so you're aware of what is part of the discussion draft at this point. And then a key thing is on the right column, you'll see a little button, a comment button. Click that if you would like to provide comments on the property, and it will link whatever comment you provide to the property that you had selected. And you'll see fields like this. It does ask for your name, an address, which is what we usually require for testimony as well. And on the right side, there is a comment box for you to enter your comments. And again, right now in this discussion draft phase, the whole purposes of this is to share the proposals with the community, see what you think, and nothing's written in stone yet. So we very much encourage you to share your thoughts on the proposals, just whether you support it or have concerns or what have you. Wanted to just highlight where we are in the process. The comment period for the discussion draft is through July 3rd. And through much of the rest of July, staff will be refining the draft proposals, informed by what we've heard from the community and the input you've provided. So that's really a key thing. And then the next phase will be going to a proposed draft. And that will be what is the result of the revisions to the discussion draft based on that community input. We, at this point, have a date on the Planning Commission calendar for a hearing on August 26th. That will be a public hearing. Planning Commission will then be voting whether or not to recommend the draft being forwarded to City Council, and they may also bring about changes based on what they've heard. And as I mentioned, the MAP app will be how you provide your testimony or written testimony at that point for Planning Commission. The next step after that is going to City Council. We do not know exactly when that will be. It could be the winter of 2025-26, but we want to make sure that if you're interested in this project and what's happening to it, we encourage you to sign up for project updates. We have a place for that on our project website where you could sign up, and that's really the best way to keep up with where the project is. So that's it. I can stop sharing and see if we have questions.